So today I'm reviewing Of the Flesh, which seems appropriate because after the election, this is another horror story. But also on the topic of voting, we still have 2 more days to pick the November book for my book club. So if you want to join that, now is the time. Just head on Fable, the poll is live, the shortlist is there, let your voice be heard. But yes, Of the Flesh, I had a lot of fun with this book. I felt very inspired actually, because if I ever did become a writer, this is exactly the sort of stuff that I would love to write. Like, I eat this genre up. It was a bit inconsistent. Like, as I said when I unboxed it, it's a great introduction to all of these different authors, but then at the same time, there are definitely some that I enjoyed more than others. And so when you have like 18 different voices in one book, it is a bit of a roller coaster where some of them are amazing. Like, this has some of the greatest horror stories that I've ever read, but the majority are fairly unmemorable horror type stories. But as I've done with anthologies like this before, I will be ranking all 18 stories, starting from the very worst to the very best. Just in my opinion, that doesn't mean you can't enjoy the ones at the bottom of the ranking, but I didn't feel as strongly about them as I do about the best ones. I also made notes about every single story with pencil markings. I miss that. I need to do that more. Just using a light pencil and making notes inside the book. I think that's really cute. But anyways, coming in last place, 18th place, Ghost Kitchen by Francine Toon. This was like, all of these horror stories, like, they're mostly dealing with like modern horrors, and this one was sort of like an Uber Eats situation that was also cannibalism. Didn't care for it, found it difficult to follow. In 17th place, I put The Old Lion by Evie Wilde. Again, difficult to follow. I think it was meant to be like a vampire tale, but it wasn't very long and I wasn't enjoying it. In 16th place, I have got Waffle Thomas by Ainsley Hogarth. This was like a breakup revenge horror taking place on like a mountain hike. Again, just wasn't really here for it. And surprisingly, 15th place, Daisies by Marion Enriquez. I love me some Marion Enriquez, but this story was not one of her better ones. It was about like someone's dead mother and how the body hadn't been decomposed and people were treating it like a saint. It was nah. In 14th place, I've got Fairies by Lavi Tidar. I hope I'm saying their name correctly. Again, it was like a revenge type story in a primary school. This little girl was getting bullied. Her bully was called Alfie, which I did enjoy. And she gets supernatural help from these fairies. It wasn't bad, but it just, there's some much better stories here. 13th place, I've got Going Large by Lionel Shriver. This one, I didn't know what to feel about it. It was kind of giving me like The Wedding Gig, the Stephen King story, where it's about this woman who's rude to an overweight person and then she rapidly gains weight as like a punishment, but I didn't really understand what it was trying to tell me, and it felt a touch offensive. In 12th place, we have Flight, Flight, Freeze by Susan Barker. I found this one a tad overrated. Like, it was the first story in the anthology, and again, it wasn't bad, but it was again like another revenge story where this other woman gets like punished for having an affair when the guy's the guy's girlfriend was like dying with cancer. Nah. In 11th place, I have got Rasheen by Irinosa Okogie. This, I liked it. It didn't go in the way that I wanted it to go. I think it could have had more to say about like sort of cultural horror and working as like an immigrant. Instead, it sort of went in like a body horror direction, which was interesting but unexpected. In 10th place, I've got Bob a Job by James Smythe. This was actually very similar to the previous story, where it was again like this weird sort of plot twist, like worker situation where the workers are sort of being turned into something else. Like, it was perfectly fine. This is the point I would say where the stories really amp up and they get much better. Like, these are the top half. So from 9 to 1, Starting in ninth place, we've got The Fruiting Body by Bridget Collins. This one was like, there's a couple that move into a new house, but the house has got some dry rot, and it's like making them see things, and it's putting a strain on their relationship. It was upsetting as well, because like, trigger warnings, there's some real domestic abuse type stuff in it that was effective, and I thought it was quite scary. Eighth place, I've got Apples by Amelia Hart. This was interesting. There was like an apple tree, and if you consumed the fruit, it gave you like foresight abilities. And you could like sort of see what people were thinking and look into the future and stuff. It was cool. It could have been longer just to develop that idea a bit more. Seventh place, I feel like I've put this one higher than other reviews that I've read, but I actually quite liked Flight 2212 by J.K. Chukwu. This was a wacky one. It was like they were on a plane, but it was this sort of dystopian world where everyone has got like skin grafts to cover up their bones, which was really wacky. And it's like not a very long story, but I enjoyed it for the swing of it. In sixth place, I've got Shade by Robert Lautner. Oh, this one was awesome. So it's like we're in a mine shaft. All of these like young boys and men are working very hard, but there's like this demon, and they have shrines to it throughout the mines, and they have to honor the demon, otherwise it can like take out its anger on the workers by like trapping them in the mines. I thought that was a really cool one. In fifth place, I've got Sketchy by Lewis Hancock. I thought this one was a nice palate cleanser because it's a graphic novel, so there isn't as much reading, but it was a story about a girl who like finds her mum's old sketchbook or something, and it has like the power to actualize the things that she draws in real life. It was nice. In fourth place, I have Mouse by Louisa Young. This was one of the more successful stories at like channeling women's rage and how that is sort of presented against like these oppressive men. So she has like this husband who's like pretending, well not pretending, but he's like taking advantage of her as like a medical dependent and is not doing anything for himself. So like she hits breaking point, and it's like very spooky. In third place, I have The Smiling African Uncle by Adora Nwora. This was chilling. I thought this was incredible. Like this top three, I loved all three of them so much. It's about like a test for immigrants who have newly arrived in the country, but like the test never ends and they have to act a certain way, and it felt so scathing and critical. Like I love this kind of like social thriller horror. In second place, I have Carcinization by my book friend Lucy Rose. I was so pleasantly surprised when I got round to this. Not that I didn't think that you would be a great writer, it's just compared to this really stacked lineup of other authors, you really rose to the top. Like I had the best time with this. It's about a woman, and she's like a fisherman's wife, and she takes this pet crab and then ingests it, and they have this sort of symbiotic relationship, and it was very unusual body horror, and I lived for it. I'm very excited for your book coming out next year. Nice. To the surprise of no one, I've seen this one praised everywhere. The Broccoli Eel by Michael Faber is an incredible horror story. I love this one so much. It's all about little children not wanting to eat their broccoli and creating like a supernatural phenomenon out of that. Loved it so much. The best book, the best story in the collection for me. But yeah, that was Of the Flesh. Did you enjoy this? Let me know.